So, quick answer to that clickbaity title. No, the Destiny 2 beta did not fail, and the various mass media outlets like The Know and some segments of Eurogamer are cherry-picking quite effectively to prove a negative impression. They're cherry-picking the Destiny subreddit and the Bungie forums quote-unquote outrage at the PvP focus of the Destiny 2 beta as justification for the beta's overall failure, which is a ridiculously untruthful way to present an opinion piece or a review piece. In today's video, I want to explore a subject that is, or at least should be, on everyone's mind, and that's the Destiny 2 beta and the impact on our overall community. Now, I know that title is clickbaity, and before you shoot me with a downvote, I want to honestly tell you my goal is to drive conversation and to stand out. I want to address the subject line of this video in the most level-headed way possible and make you think, make you constructively argue, and give me feedback. My goal as a YouTuber is to drive audience to my channel and make you enjoy the video you clicked on, and hopefully I succeed with that today. Some of my fellow lore compatriots and creators have also made videos on this subject, and if you want another point of view that has some of the same sort of level-headedness as myself, I'd check out Myelin's video below. Now, I'm not going to say that I agree with all of Matt's points or his pronounced but admitted bias, but I just want to say that it's a good, solid video in a second mindset. Now, if you've been with my channel for any length of time, you know that my allegiance is to the honesty and integrity of this channel. I've never been invited to any Bungie events, and with that I've said in the past and what I'm going to say now, I really doubt I ever will. So I'm not in any real fear of stepping on toes, simply because there aren't any toes to step on. But I do want to give you my opinion on the quote-unquote reviews of the Destiny beta from a few sources, mainly The Know, IGN, some of the Reddit posts, break them down, and then sort of sift through the nonsense to find a coherent and stable opinion that isn't ripe with emotional or colorful lettering. So let's hop right into it and tackle the more negative reviews that have recently arisen. Ian Higton over at Eurogamer describes his experience as disappointing and uninterested, stating, "Destiny 2 feels dull, while Public Battlegrounds gets the pulse racing. Destiny 2's bullet sponge boss battles seem like nothing more than a mind-numbing grind. I'm sure I'll stick with it for the first couple weeks after release. Maybe I'll even convince myself the hollow, endless shooting is fun. In the end, though, I'm confident it'll be uninstalled and forgotten about by the end of the year." Unquote. Now, to an extent, Higton does make a very solid point. First and foremost, one of the largest complaints many players had with the original vanilla Destiny is the boss battles were giant sponges, offering no real incentive to do anything but dump bullet after bullet into them. As the game moved forward and progressed, this changed. We went from the Valis to Arc Strikes being a time-suck boss of dread to the Shield Brothers or the Sunless Cell. While still categorized as normal bosses in the traditional sense, they offered mechanics that made you actually move and think, or at least got the blood pumping. But the Inverted Spire Strike final boss, the Prothean Mind, did very little to inspire that Bungie is going to offer us more than Valis to Arcs-esque bullet sponges come Destiny 2. Was it a cool boss? Absolutely. Did it reinvent the wheel and flip the game on its head? Of course not. Perhaps as an introductory strike, it shouldn't be insanely challenging or have some super hardcore mechanics usually reserved for raids. But I get Higton's point, where he feels that the game will only hold him for so long before he eventually drops it, because the grind will no doubt return, and the lack of substance Destiny 2 offers will be the same hollow shell Destiny 1 offered vanilla adopters. But Higton is a self-prescribed skeptic, and one review isn't enough to sway the internet. And let's be fair, the Inverted Spire Strike already introduced new mechanics, changing floors, additional ad spawnings, that is, in a way, an improvement from Valis to Arc. So how about Chris Tapsell? He didn't play Destiny at launch due to him being on the PC, so the whole Destiny hype really eluded him. He described his time in the beta as, quote, "The best gunplay in the world is what I've been told, and sort of okay gunplay and the worst platforming in the history of video games would probably be my reply. At least that's how I feel a day with the beta," unquote. And that's a PC player coming to play consoles. So that's like plucking a foreign student to learn English for the first time. There's obviously going to be some technical and mechanical hurdles that has to be overcome before this individual feels truly comfortable with the game. But let's be fair though, Destiny's best attributes were its usage of weapons, and something that you are literally doing the entire time, shooting a gun and powering up your space magic at aliens. It should feel really damn good. I'd like to pass Chris's point off to you guys at this point. We've heard replies from 2 players that aren't Destiny fans. They aren't the really hardcore player base many of us are, but hearing an outside perspective is again refreshing. The goal of the video is to remove the echo chamber that a lot of Destiny YouTubers have created with being so careful and how critical they are about their favorite game in fear of reprisal from the community or from the publisher/developer themselves. I will say, mechanically, Destiny 2 looks a lot like Destiny 1, so if you are familiar with the mechanics and the concept of the original, adopting to some of the slight movement changes of the second isn't going to be supremely challenging. But so far, we have 2 mixed reviews, giving the game, or I should say beta, somewhat average if not above average scores, as in game is good, gunplay is tight, didn't capture my attention. What about the next big issue? The scale and size of the beta, how it was delivered, and how it felt more PvP than PvE. If you remember the beta of Destiny 1, this was the actual old school demo more than it was the marketing beta that we got today. Hell, I'd even argue that the term beta needs to be dropped, as these are marketing demos disguised as betas to protect investor faith. The game you played during the beta is the game you're gonna play during launch, with maybe some minute balancing changes. But during the Destiny 1 beta, Bungie gave you all of Earth's patrol zone to explore, and this was the experience that captured the imagination of so many players, myself included. You remember the question mark Hive Knights under the crash helicopter? The first time we fought the Fallen and explored some of the game's rich universe. It made me want to purchase it. But now, as Paul Tassi of Ford presents, the beta of Destiny 2 is scaled back considerably. Quote, offering players essentially a default experience for this early test makes sense, and it's a good way to get players to test out the variety of skills and weapons. I also agree that the old Destiny Alpha and Beta probably gave away too much. And even though it would have been nice to explore the European Dead Zone Patrol or the farm, even though the farm was released a little later, I understand why the decision was made. Instead, we got 1 mission, 1 strike, and 2 crucible modes. And that's the caveat, and the main point a lot of people had. We got 2 crucible modes and no explorable zone. Now, obviously, in some ways, this makes sense. Firstly, Bungie is obviously fearful of showing you too much. Either A, there isn't enough content to show off for a full or partially patrol level to justify it during the beta, or 2, this beta was less of a marketing demo and more of a server stress test on one of its most hot button issues in all of Destiny, the PvP modes and their respective balances. Let's be fair, I remember the days of the Suros regime being the god gun, the days where Blade Dancer was a monster and shoulder charging skating titans were the norm. I left PvP after the Stormcaller nerf days, and when I did come back during Rise of Iron, the PvP just felt foreign to me, and I don't think I'm going to be putting that much time into it come Destiny 2. At least, not the competitive esport modes that are being more pronounced in Destiny 2. And that was the main gripe many people had, that the beta and that Destiny 2 is and is going to be a focused esports title, more so than the traditional grab a friend loot shooter. And there is technically nothing wrong with that. But there is one problem that can't be ignored, and that's that PvP weapon balances always affect PvE weapon balances, and for the right reasons. Bungie wants to keep a weapon that is just as powerful or effective in PvE as it is in PvP, so that the transition between the two isn't a jarring experience that removes you from immersion. The problem with this notion, however noble, is that it is incredibly hard to perfect, and it's something Bungie couldn't really nail down in Destiny 1. I remember seeing the Thorn buffed, nerfed, buffed, and then finally moderated to average over the course of 3 years. ARs were the norm, then it was exotic hand cannons and pulse rifles, then shotgun sliding, and so on and so on. So when players are upset the Destiny beta was focused heavily on PvP, I understand why Bungie is taking it this seriously this time around. They want to keep your experience in terms of both realms of PvP and PvE as close to identical, while keeping all the weapons you love to use and their classes unique. But let's focus a little bit more on this whole topic of Destiny being an esport and the esport focus of the game, or apparently of the beta. Firstly, I don't think Destiny should be an esport on console, and to be very, very clear, this isn't because consoles are inferior to PC, or that 60 FPS is better than 30 FPS, or that my EPeen is bigger than yours. It's solely because I want Destiny 2, if it was to become an esport, to be the most successful, and the money in the PC market is much larger than the console market. N4G sums up the argument very well in a few fine points: technical issues and financial issues. Quote, "It is just too expensive to appeal to everyone. There are too many factors to take into consideration to choose console over PC, whether it be ensuring the highest level of competitiveness, maintaining tournament integrity, and allocating funds in the most promising manner possible. From a purely objective standpoint, it is beneficial to center a game's professional scene on PC. It may not suit your specific needs, but gamers need to understand that they need to look beyond themselves in order to see the full picture." And this is true to an extent, where if Destiny was to be the most successful as an esport title, it should be on the PC. Now, with games like Halo, Gears of War, and COD, clearly this isn't the entire case, as those games have dominated the esports market on console. And with the upcoming titles like Rocket League having a sizable presence on console, an argument can be made that Destiny 2 could be successful if it was a title to be paraded as an esport on the consoles, and most likely one console, the PlayStation. Again, this isn't a shot at Xbox owners. This goes to a very clear marketing agreement Activision and Sony have. Clearly, Sony has the ball in Destiny 2's court. They don't have a successful esport title of their own to speak of, minus the changing of the guard of COD from Xbox to PS4, but with the esport market continually growing, they'd be foolish not to try. So when there is this quote-unquote outrage, if that's even the word for it, that Bungie is focusing their beta on PvP and not showing off more patrol missions, let's look at the facts again. Destiny 1's beta showed off way too much, left players feeling that the beta was going to be giving them more than when the game launched, and to many, it did not deliver. Bungie is very reactionary, so they tend to learn from their mistakes. This is most likely the case from Destiny 2's beta in terms of not showing you too much. And two, the uproar about PvP being more supported and that Destiny 2 shouldn't be an esport is, in my opinion, a bad argument. If it was to be an esport, it's for the betterment of all players, casual and hardcore alike. PvE players don't want their favorite weapons tuned back because in PvP they were a little too good. So this requires a meticulous and in-depth testing. And the best way to start is during the beta. So while the game might not change day one, at least they will have some type of head start to better balance the entire experience across the board for all of us. Final points I want to make though. I will say the Nose video on the subject did sort of irritate me a little bit. They led their commentary with entitled gamers, and there's nothing more effective than generalizing your entire audience because of the active criticism found on the Destiny subreddit. I think there was a little too much pitchfork and clamor and too little reason and thought, but after a few days it has clearly calmed down, as you can see today. As more and more players are beginning to understand that Bungie wants the best game for all of its players, and to do that they're going to start tests now as opposed to release. So again, final question. Did the Destiny 2 beta fail? No, of course not. Traditional media and a lot of your favorite YouTubers may make cases for some of the game's shortcomings, but the general consensus is that the Destiny 2 is more of the same, but in a good way. It's sort of like this: you really enjoyed eating ice cream sandwiches when you were a kid, but you felt that they could have given you a little bit more ice cream per sandwich, or made the sandwich melt resistance. Well, with Destiny 2, you're still eating an ice cream sandwich, but there's like the jumbo version with extra sugar and more awesome. I honestly can't see a problem here. But what do you think? Did they focus too much on the PvP side of the beta, and does this have you worried? Do you agree with my mentality that esports should be on the PC and not console? If so, why? And if you don't, please tell me. And finally, did the Destiny 2 beta fail to impress you, to capture your imagination, as so many quote-unquote gaming journalists would argue is the case? I know it hasn't dissuaded me in the slightest, but as always, I do want to know what you guys think. Now, these videos are meant to drive conversation and discussion. I don't want to live in an echo chamber, and I want my thoughts and ideas challenged by my viewers, because that's the only way I'm going to create better content and understand where my audience has put their feelings. You guys are seriously awesome, and I can't wait to tackle some of the Destiny 2 lore with all of you once the game drops this September. If you haven't joined us yet, the Lore Seekers are always looking for new members come Destiny 2 and beyond, so get on our Discord. And finally, this video was made possible by my Patreon supporters, so if you see them in the comments section or on the Discord server, make sure to thank them, because I know I thank them. If you like this video, give it a like and sub for more. If you didn't like this video, feel free to drop a dislike and tell me why. I love you guys. I can't wait to cover lore and grab some games with you guys in Destiny 2. Peace.